So, former Vice President Joe Biden was at some kind of event sponsored by the Council of Foreign Relations. I don't know exactly what it was, a Q&A. You know, he was out in front of the press, and he brought up a story that he was telling about how him and President Obama went to Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, the ranking Republican, and asked for his help because they had this information that the Russians were interfering in our elections, and they wanted to go public with it. But Mitch McConnell said, no, I'm not going to help you. And, you know, this took them back, and they struggled with what to do with this information that the Russians, you know, were interfering in our election, but because they didn't have Mitch McConnell's bipartisan support, they didn't go forward with it until, like, after the election. So I guess there's only one thing we can say about Mitch McConnell not helping President Obama in a bipartisan action about Russian interference. And that is, go fuck yourself, Joe Biden. Because seriously, fuck you. Why the fuck would you bring that up? The only thing you have proven to me is how incompetent President Obama was and how incompetent you were as his vice fucking president. The idea that you were going to sit on this information because Mitch McConnell wouldn't help you. Why the fuck would Mitch McConnell help you? He's a fucking partisan Republican who doesn't want to help the goddamn Democrats. And you should have fucking known that. Because fucking, I mean, if the story is to be believed, and I know there's a lot of people out there doubting the whole Russians interfered with our elections. Me, personally, I don't know. And I honestly don't give a flying fuck because the Democrats suck. And I don't want them to suck. I want some Democrats to rise up, stand up to Trump, get his fucking ass out of the White House in 2020. But I don't see that happening because you get these constant reminders of how incompetent they are. And this is just a prime example. And Biden, a lot of people think he's going to run in 2020. Good God, no. Especially after this. This just shows you how dumb he is. Like I said, they had no reason to suspect or think that Mitch McConnell was going to support them. Everyone knew how partisan he was. At the same time this would have been going on, Mitch McConnell was leading the charge to hold up the Merrick Garland Supreme Court decision. I mean, not decision, confirmation. Wouldn't give him hearings, wouldn't give him a shot. They were, you know, keeping that seat empty so the next president, Trump, could pick the next Supreme Court nomination, which he did. And they thought they could get some bipartisan help from Mitch McConnell. No. They're just making excuses for their own incompetence. The other thing is the reason they didn't come forward more or push it, the idea that the Russians were interfering in the election because they thought it'd create chaos. If they came out, and of course you had Steve Bannon out there, his name got dropped. They would be like, oh, the fucking Democrats are full of shit. They're trying to delegitimize, you know, what you think, fellow Trump supporters. Who would give them a flying fuck if that's what they had? If they come out with this information that said, hey, the Russians are trying to get Trump elected. People on the Republican side would say they're full of shit. Or maybe more people said, oh, you know what? I don't think they're full of shit. I think Trump really is nothing more than a Russian pawn. Like I said, he just wouldn't have been seen as anything more than some political propaganda, accusations, slander, whatever the hell you want to call it. Said they wait till after the election where, you know, the media has said, hey, Trump has won. And of course, we had rioting in the street after that. And you had people trying to rig the Electoral College so that the people who were supposed to vote for Trump would vote for some other Republican, further putting it in chaos. And then, of course, President Obama comes out threatening the Russians with action because they interfered with our elections. I remember that because they did a fucking video on it. And like I said, this just shows you how stupid they were. If you believe it. Because part of me thinks they're full of shit and they're just making excuses for their own mistakes and why they didn't win in 2016. Because they didn't understand the Electoral College and that concept. You needed to win states, not people. And, you know, thanks for Trump, Biden. Thanks for Trump. And that's what we're going to end it with. Like I said, all this did was show how stupid they were.